Okay, hi, I'm Sarah. I will be refuting Dan's argument on why we should not raise the minimum wage. Well, first of all, raising the minimum wage is morally necessary, stated by Governor Jerry Brown to the Sacramento Bee newspaper. Governor Jerry Brown states that morally, socially, and politically, the minimum wages, make every sense because it binds the community together and makes sure that parents can take care of their kids in a much more satisfactory way. Now, the advocate stated that it would cause unemployment in businesses when the minimum wage makes no difference in unemployment regardless of age. John Comlow stated on PBS.org, which we accessed on May 19, 2017, stated that those against raising the minimum wage often argue that it will hurt young people the most because that they need the experience of working minimum wage. But notice that the youth unemployment rate in Germany is 7.8% and in Switzerland it is 8.5%. In contrast, youth unemployment is 15.5% in the US. Even the US minimum wage is below those in Germany and Switzerland of $10 and $9.20 an hour respectively. In other words, both have higher minimum wages but much lower youth unemployment rates. Their overall unemployment rate is also lower, 4.5% and 3.4% respectively. Now, the California minimum wage increase will also lead to benefits for government and social services and programs in Los Angeles specifically. According to Daniel Flaming from Economic Roundtable in his discussion on the effects of $15 minimum wage in Los Angeles, California, he stated increased sales and employment would generate an estimated $1.3 billion in increased annual public revenue. Social safety net programs would receive $331 million of this revenue. $1 billion would be given to general public revenue subject to legislative budget allocations by different levels of government. An estimated 15% of this general public revenue would return to the city of Los Angeles, some through the city's formula share of sales tax revenue. But the preponderance through the state and federal budget allocations that return funds to the city, this share of public revenue would bring an estimated $152 million a year to the city. And lastly, the California minimum wage increase will lead to higher annual sales and more available jobs in Los Angeles. Daniel Flaming, as stated before, wrote on the Economic Roundtable in November of 2013 and said, looking just at the stimulus effects, the added income that workers would receive from a $15 minimum wage would generate an estimated $9.2 billion in annual sales in Los Angeles County, and the increased sales would create an estimated 64,700 new jobs in the county to meet the increased demand for goods and services. Now, another point that my opponent made was that they have no benefit to the lower class. And so far, that have no benefit to the lower class, but a raising as simple as a few dollars in the minimum wage can allow people to live a higher quality life in the lower class currently. Shane Farrow wrote on the Huffington Post that Guadalupe Salazar, a McDonald's employee who lives in Oakland, makes $12.55 an hour. It's not enough. Her monthly rent is $900, nearly half of her take-home pay if she works 40 hours a week. Within $15 an hour, she said, she might be able to qualify for and afford a loan for a car, something she's currently without. It's not just her, it's her mom and family in LA who suffer the same problem around California. The people earning minimum wages are also not just high schoolers anymore, as my opponent claimed. Michael Hiltzik of the Los Angeles Times stated in March of 2016 that over 3 decades, according to a survey by the Center for Economic and Policy Research, the share of all low-wage workers who have attended or graduated from college has risen to 43.2% in 2011 from 25.2% as of 1979. The share of those without high school diplomas shrank to less than 20% from nearly 40% in that time frame. Lastly, my opponent stated that prices will increase when wages aren't adjusted, but they also have not been adjusted to prices now. Due to modern inflation, the minimum wage should be adjusted to adhere to increased cost of living. John Comlos of PBS stated in December of 2015 that the billionaire fails to realize that the real minimum wage, that is, the minimum wage adjusted for inflation, has been declining steadily and precipitously. If adjusted for inflation, the minimum wage of 1968 would be $10.90 today. That is a whopping reduction of the federal minimum wage by 1/3. It's worth nothing the unemployment rate was 3.6% in 1968 with a higher real minimum wage. So the unemployment rate is higher today at 5% than it was in 1968, when the real minimum wage is lower today than it was in 1968. And lastly, my opponent stated that we should consider other factors that lead to poverty when the cost of living in California is too high for people to be able to support themselves on minimum wage. Andy Stern of the LA Times posted in 2013 that currently an individual with a full-time job at the minimum wage and a family of 3 to support will fall below the federal poverty line level. These workers, despite putting in regular hours, are struggling to provide basic necessities for themselves and their families. People should be able to support themselves and their families and should be able to be paid the proper amount. The current minimum wage does not allow workers to meet housing costs. Carrie Kavanaugh of California's minimum wage isn't the problem, the cost of housing is article on the LA Times posted on January 5th, 2017, stated that a worker earning $10.50 an hour, which is our current minimum wage, should pay about $550 a month on housing. That figure is based on U.S. Housing and Urban Development Department affordability guideline that a person should spend no more than 1/3 of his income on housing, but the average rent in Pacioma is $1,300 a month, according to Rent Jungle, which is far below the city of Los Angeles' average of $2,300 a month. Lastly, the cost of living in California is extremely high, even compared to states with similar minimum wage. According to CNNmoney.com in May of 2017, even when California is compared to a state with a similar current minimum wage, the cost of living proves that California's minimum wage needs to be raised. In Vermont, the current minimum wage is $10, 50% less than California. And when the cost of living is compared, California still has a higher cost. With the California minimum wage salary at $20,000, a comparable wage in Vermont is $16,526. Even with a similar minimum wage, residents would still need to make about $4,000 more a year in California to compare to Vermont. So overall, my opponent stated that we don't need to raise the minimum wage because it would cause unemployment, it would not benefit the lower class, and that we should solve other aspects that adhere to poverty. However, raising the minimum wage is beneficial in all 3 categories for California citizens.